A rhetorical question, because I'll give you what I think is the answer briefly. Why should the US care? What does this mean to us? And it seems to me there are at least three things. First of all, Europe, in spite of pivots to Asia and so on, and of course pivots to something mean pivots away from something else. But even if we pivot away from Europe to some extent, clearly the densest cluster of allies for us are in Europe, Western Europe, and now what was called in the last administration New Europe, Europe as a whole. That's number one. Second of all, we've seen unpleasant outcomes in Europe from this kind of phenomenon in the past, so that ought to be a cause for concern. But third, the question of linkages, I believe there's some empirical evidence of linkages between European and Russian far-right movements and over here. David Duke, for example, the Louisiana outrider, he was espied in Duggan's circle at one point. Is that not true? So there is a
Of course, there have been growing connection between American white power movement and some of their counterparts in Ukraine and in Russia. And of course, the growing phenomenon that we are discussing, that is this connection between European far-right and Russian far-right, should be of concern, because all this global trend is going against parliamentary democracy and the way we considered our institutions should be. But on your question about why the US should care, I mean, as you said, the transatlantic relationship is still a key one, whatever the relationship to Asia will be in the decades to come. The economic relationships are very important between US and Europe. Nobody in the US should be interested in getting, of course, a European economic collapse. But more importantly, I think that Europe is so much a symbol of a kind of welfare state, democratic system, respect for citizens, and probably a more consensual model abroad than the US is, that the failure of this model from inside, that would impact globally the world and all the movements in the world, in Russia, in the Middle East, in Turkey, all these movements who are looking toward Europe as a model to follow. Well, if the model collapses, then where is the future? And I think many Russian liberals have been very clear on that issue in formulating, like, we were looking to Europe as a model, and then we have the feeling that you are collapsing, so where do you want us to look? And that's, I think, for the message that would be sent also to Muslim countries would be terrible.